Sometimes you hear a story in the news, and it just it stays with you, gets on your skin. That's Mia Campos for me.
Yeah.
This case,
Yeah.
I don't know, it felt different.
It really did.
So we're in Loganville, Georgia, and on the surface, it's your average town, right?
Yep.
But then, this 16-year-old Mia, about to be a mom, she disappears one summer night. And suddenly, Loganville is at the center of this heartbreaking mystery. And we went deep on this one, guys. Police reports, court documents, even a whole podcast dedicated to Mia.
Yeah. The source material on this one was heavy.
Heavy's an understatement. But listeners, you asked for this deep dive, and we're here to deliver.
Let's do it.
So, we got to start with Mia. 16 years old. Think about that for a second.
So young.
Full of life, loved music. Her dad was a DJ, actually.
Oh, wow.
Family said she was like this constant ray of sunshine, always dancing, always had this contagious smile. And she was 7.5 months pregnant, excited to be a mom to her son, Sebastian.
You know, what really struck me going through everything was the family dynamic. You see a teen pregnancy, you brace yourself for, I don't know, maybe some tension, some pushback.
Right.
But the Campos family, completely the opposite. They chose to support Mia no matter what. Even her brother, Alexis, he admitted he was angry at first, but then it shifted, became about love, acceptance. They knew Mia needed them.
Especially since the baby's father, Jesus, he was 19 at the time.
Right.
He wasn't stepping up, really.
Right.
Like, even when the family was like, look, no pressure here, but are you in or out with this? He kept his distance.
Wow.
But Mia, she still had this hope, that he'd be there for Sebastian.
And that's where this story, it takes this incredibly dark turn because Jesus, this seemingly uninvolved father, he ends up being a key player in the investigation.
July 14th, 2024. Mia's out, shopping for baby shower stuff. Seems like a totally normal day for a teenager about to have a baby.
Yeah, totally.
And then she tells Alexis, her brother, that she's meeting up with Jesus just for a little bit to get snacks. Again, pretty typical teenager stuff, right?
Yeah.
But then the hours pass, and Mia's not answering her phone.
And that's where things get really unsettling. And the source material on this it's ripped from the headlines,
Okay.
So Mia, like a lot of teenagers these days, she used this app called Life 360. You familiar with that?
Yeah, it's for location sharing, right?
Yeah.
Families use it to keep track of each other. So I can see why that'd be important for this case.
Exactly. That app, it was crucial. It allowed the family to actually pinpoint Mia's last known location. And get this, it wasn't just some random spot. It was tucked away in the woods, literally just a half mile from their house.
So close to home, but still hidden. What happened in those woods?
Well, all signs pointed to Jesus. Between that Life 360 data and some witness statements, the police knew he was at the scene.
Okay, so what's he say?
Well, at first, he denied seeing her at all that day, told the family he had nothing to do with it. But then he shows up at their house super quickly after she's reported missing, even brings his dad along, almost like he's trying to look more innocent,
Yeah, that's not a good look.
And when you get into the police reports, it gets even more suspicious. Apparently, Jesus was really insistent on being the one to show Mia's father, Edward, where he found her body.
He was adamant that he should be the one to find the body, even though he was claiming he wasn't with her.
Yeah.
That doesn't make any sense.
And it gets worse. Edward actually noticed Jesus, touching Mia's body almost too casually, like he was trying to make sure his fingerprints were there.
Oh, my God. This is awful.
Yeah. And remember the phone records we talked about?
Yeah, you said something about a screen recording.
Right. So Mia had actually recorded a video of their text conversation from earlier that day.
Oh, wow.
And the footage. It showed Jesus asking her to meet, telling her not to tell anyone, and to delete their messages. Basically, it painted this picture of a young girl who was scared, who felt coerced, and was just trying to protect herself.
This is just heartbreaking, especially because, get this, just minutes before she got into his car, she even texted a friend saying that she was afraid. So sad. So what did the police do with all of this?
Well, that screen recording, combined with his constantly changing story, it was enough to get Jesus arrested. Initially just for making false statements, but then the autopsy report came back. Homicide. Cause of death. Asphyxiation.
Asphyxiation, God. It's such a brutal way to go.
Yeah.
And to think Mia was going through that pregnant with Sebastian, it's just, I don't even know. What kind of charges are we talking about here?
So the charges against Jesus, they're as serious as it gets. We're talking malice murder, felony murder, fetocide, and aggravated assault.
Okay, so break that down for me. I mean, those all sound horrific, obviously.
Yeah.
But what's the difference legally, especially between the malice murder and the felony murder?
You're right. The distinctions are really important, and Georgia law. It's very specific. Malice murder means there was premeditation, even if it was just for a fleeting moment. So picture this, right? Heated argument, things escalate, and suddenly, in a split second, the intent to kill forms. That, under Georgia law, could be malice murder.
Wow.
Felony murder, on the other hand, that means the death happened during the process of committing a different felony, which in this case would likely be the aggravated assault.
So they're saying even if he didn't go into the day planning to kill her, that moment of rage, that intent, could be enough for a malice murder conviction.
Exactly.
And the penalties are different, too.
Absolutely. Malice murder carries a much heavier sentence. We could be talking life in prison, potentially even without the possibility of parole. Felony murder, that also carries a life sentence, but there might be a chance for parole at some point.
Okay.
But it's really going to depend on how the evidence comes out at trial and how the jury interprets it all.
Right. And what about Sebastian? He was so close to being born. How does the law even approach something like that?
That's where that fetocide charge comes in. Georgia law, it recognizes the unlawful death of an unborn child, which makes this whole case, it's even more difficult to even process.
That's awful.
It really is. And each one of those charges, it carries its own weight, its own potential sentence. And I think the prosecution is really using every tool they have to try to make sure that justice is served for both Mia and for Sebastian.
I can't imagine what Mia's family has been going through this whole time. I mean, their first grandchild, their daughter, just gone. Have they said anything publicly at all?
They have, yeah. And it's clear that they are completely devastated, but even in their grief, they seem so determined to fight for justice. They want answers. They want to know what happened in those missing 27 minutes between Mia leaving her house and her phone going silent.
Yeah.
And I think most importantly, they want to make sure this never happens to another family.
God, it's a chilling reminder that behind all the legal terms, all the, courtroom drama, this is a family that's forever broken. And what you said about those 27 minutes, it makes it that much more real. We're not just talking about some case file here. We're talking about a real person, a young woman with hopes and dreams whose life was tragically cut short.
Yeah.
What about a motive? I mean, was there any indication of why this would have even happened?
Honestly, that's still the biggest mystery in all of this. I mean, nothing in the source material that we reviewed gave any clear-cut answers. Was it a crime of passion? Was there something darker going on? I mean, we might never really know what was going through Jesus's head that night.
It's almost like that lack of understanding, that void, makes the whole thing even more tragic.
Yeah.
This isn't just a case for the courts to decide. It's a story that forces us to think about bigger issues. Teen pregnancy, domestic violence, just the vulnerability of young people. It's a lot to unpack.
Yeah. It really highlights the importance of support systems, too, of families who have each other's backs even when things are really tough.
Yeah.
And the Campos family, their strength through all of this, it's incredible, really. They actually set up a GoFundMe page to help with the funeral costs and legal fees. It's a really concrete way for people to show their support, to maybe offer a little bit of comfort in the face of such unimaginable loss.
Absolutely. We'll definitely make sure that link is in the show notes for anyone listening who wants to help out. This case, it stays with you.
Yeah.
And I think what I keep coming back to is just Mia's courage. Her strength in those final moments. Imagine being that scared, that uncertain, and still you try to protect yourself. You try to leave some kind of record. It's incredibly powerful.
Yeah, and it really underscores the importance of listening to people, especially young people. Like if someone tells you they're afraid, if something feels wrong, you have to take it seriously. You have to offer support, no judgment. Mia's story, it's heartbreaking. But if anything good can come from it, maybe it's that we all start paying more attention, We remember that we all have a role to play in looking out for one another.
Well said. This deep dive has been tough, but it's important. Mia's story, Sebastian's story, it deserves to be heard. And if by listening, by learning from this tragedy, even one family can be spared this kind of pain, then it's all been worth it. Thanks for taking this deep dive with us, everyone. And if you're out there listening right now, please, if you need help, reach out. Check in on the people you love. And let's keep learning from stories like Mia's so that one day we won't have to tell them anymore.